Behind the powdered mask. In the grand courtyards of Edo-period Japan, beauty was not just a desire, it was a duty. But beneath the serene white faces and elegant gestures lay a world of quiet suffering. Beauty came at a price paid in silence, submission, and physical strain. This was not modern vanity. This was survival in a society where a woman's worth could hinge on the angle of her bow or the gloss of her skin. Today, we journey into a side of Japanese history rarely spoken of. We won't be talking about samurai swords or castle sieges. Instead, we'll unravel the beauty rituals practiced by noble women, geisha, and the elite courtesans known as oiran. Behind every layer of makeup, every tightly bound kimono, and every immaculate hairstyle was a hidden cost. Bruises, burns, infections, and long-term damage. And yet, these women endured it with grace, because they often had no choice. Forget what you think you know about elegance in old Japan. These were not soft lives. This was resilience wrapped in silk, and sometimes quiet pain. White poison, the lead in their skin. For centuries, the hallmark of elite Japanese beauty was a snow-white face. Called shironuri, this ghostly appearance signified refinement, class, and divine purity. But the paint that created this ethereal look often contained a toxic secret: white lead. Women applied it in thick layers, sometimes daily, using a mixture called oshiroi, which frequently included lead carbonate. The cosmetic gave them a flawless appearance under candlelight. Soft, glowing, mysterious. But beneath it, the lead slowly absorbed into the skin. Side effects included chronic headaches, skin erosion, hair loss, and in some cases, lead poisoning, which caused muscle weakness and neurological symptoms. Over time, some women showed signs of premature aging. A tragic irony for something meant to preserve youth. And while some doctors warned of the risks, the pressure to maintain appearances often outweighed concerns for health. To ensure ideal coverage, women shaved their eyebrows and often the front of their hairline to create an exaggerated oval canvas. This was painful in itself, as razors were primitive and sanitation was poor. The ideal was stillness, control, beauty without expression. But behind the mask, their real skin suffocated. The practice was so widespread that by the late 1700s, medical texts warned of face rot, a term describing lesions caused by prolonged lead exposure. But in the world of performance and appearance, beauty often demanded the risk. Bound by elegance, the obi, and the art of restriction. If you've ever seen a kimono tied with a wide sash, that's the obi. And while it may look decorative, for many women, it was a daily source of discomfort. The obi could be over 4 meters long and was wrapped tightly around the waist and torso. For oiran, it was often tied in the front in elaborate symbolic shapes, sometimes rising a foot off the body. This wasn't just fashion. It was branding. A physical announcement of one's status, availability, and artistry. But the weight and pressure caused restricted breathing, digestion issues, and occasional fainting in the summer heat. Some women developed rib bruising, postural changes, or long-term compression effects. The discomfort, for many, was part of daily life. Yet removing the obi in public was unthinkable. It was worn even in sleep, sometimes replaced with a lighter training version. For noble women and high-ranking courtesans, movement was choreographed around the obi. They were trained to walk in short, controlled steps. Grace was measured not by freedom of movement, but by how well one could endure restriction without revealing discomfort. Adding to this was the multi-layered kimono, sometimes with 6 or more silk garments underneath. The friction on the skin, especially in humid weather, caused rashes and infections. Sweat had nowhere to escape. Women would often suffer from heat stroke or dehydration, particularly during festivals or ceremonies. Yet the most revered trait wasn't the garment itself. It was how silently one could bear it. Crown of wax and ash. The hairstyles that hurt. Hairstyling in Edo-period Japan wasn't a quick routine. It was a half-day affair, involving heat, wax, ash, and careful craftsmanship. The most iconic styles, such as the Shimada Mage or the Takashimada, involved sculpting hair into towering loops or structured coils, held together with camellia oil, beeswax, and hair ash. These were stiffened so effectively that women could sleep without disturbing the shape, but only if they used a wooden neck block called a takamakura. These blocks elevated the head to protect the hairstyle, but caused neck strain, back pain, and disrupted sleep. In oiran houses, maintaining the hairstyle was paramount. Falling off the block could lead to punishment or reprimand. The process of creating these styles involved hot metal rods, sometimes heated over flames. Scalp burns were not uncommon. Lice and skin infections also spread easily, as hair was only washed every 10 to 14 days to preserve the shape. For elite courtesans, hair was a statement, a symbol of rank and aesthetic mastery. The more complex the style, the more admired the woman, but it came at a cost. The weight of these coiffures caused chronic headaches, and over time, many women experienced traction alopecia, hair loss from constant pulling on the scalp. These hairstyles weren't just fashionable. They were social armor, broadcasting identity and class. But beneath the ornaments and lacquered pins was a scalp under constant tension. Layers of suffering. The kimono that crushed. The kimono, graceful and elegant, is one of Japan's most enduring cultural icons. But in the Edo period, wearing one, especially for women of status, was not about comfort. It was about restraint, discipline, and enduring beauty through composure. A noblewoman or oiran might wear up to 6 layers, each made of heavy embroidered silk. These weren't just garments, they were visual declarations of status, occasion, and personal artistry. The combined weight could rival carrying a small child, worn not once, but throughout long ceremonies or entire days. This caused overheating, fainting, and bacterial skin infections from trapped moisture. The most iconic look, long fury-sewed sleeves for unmarried women, could nearly touch the ground. Girls as young as 13 were expected to wear these in public, which led to falls, twisted ankles, and strain on the spine. Dressing in a kimono required assistance. Kitsukeshi, dressers, followed precise protocols for every fold and tie. A misplaced collar could mean shame. In some geisha districts, training required standing motionless for hours while being dressed, a lesson in posture and obedience. In this world, beauty wasn't just about what you wore, but how still, silent, and poised you remained while wearing it. Footwear that shaped pain into poise. Japan never practiced foot binding like in ancient China, but that didn't mean the footwear was gentle. Geita, elevated wooden clogs, and the more extreme taka ashida, worn by oiran, could reach 30 centimeters in height. These weren't just shoes. They were walking platforms designed to slow movement, display elegance, and separate high-ranking courtesans from the common crowd. Walking in them required intense balance. One misstep could lead to injury or embarrassment. The height altered posture and gait, often leading to calf strain, joint pain, and long-term foot problems. The straps, or hanao, could dig painfully into the skin, especially when worn tightly over layered socks, tabi. Infections, calluses, and bruises were common. The wood absorbed summer heat and winter cold, making discomfort a year-round companion. While commoners wore simpler sandals, elite women in performance roles had no such luxury. Their grace was judged by every careful, floating step. Their beauty, once again, was measured in endurance. The silent hell of the oiran. The oiran were far more than courtesans. They were icons of art, intellect, and ritual. Trained in music, calligraphy, and etiquette, they were elite entertainers. But behind the glamour lay a life of rigid hierarchy, physical toll, and constrained freedom. Many were sold into the trade as children. Their early years were spent in servitude, learning how to serve, smile, bow, and obey. Advancement came only after years of apprenticeship. Once elevated to oiran status, their routine was unrelenting. Mornings began before dawn, with hours of hairstyling, makeup, and kimono dressing. Their conduct had to be flawless. No yawning, no sweating, no visible fatigue. And while they held social status, they remained commodified. Sexual relationships with powerful clients were often non-consensual. Their towering shoes, elaborate dress, and choreographed parades were designed to mesmerize, but they also caused injuries, pain, and postural damage. Some oiran suffered from joint deterioration or struggled with health complications. Few lived into old age. Fewer still escaped the system willingly. The real cost of their beauty wasn't their clothing. It was what they gave up: autonomy, health, and often their identity. Painful silence, the cost of stillness and control. Perhaps the most invisible beauty demand in Edo-period Japan was emotional restraint. To be beautiful was to be quiet, still, controlled. From noble women to geisha, the ideal was grace through suppression, never grimacing, never laughing too loud, never showing fatigue. Girls were trained to kneel for hours without shifting, to bow low without trembling, to eat slowly, speak gently, and never express displeasure. This wasn't just etiquette. It was a lifelong performance. Sitting in seiza for hours caused knee and back problems. Constant bowing led to scoliosis and poor circulation. But the deeper cost was emotional. Many were taught to suppress tears, to hide discomfort, and to endure pressure without reaction. Pain, whether physical or emotional, was not to be shown. One samurai-era saying declared, "A beautiful woman needs no words." In that silence, generations of women bore a hidden burden, one that beauty traditions seldom acknowledged. The beauty you were never meant to see. We remember Edo-period Japan for its elegance, its ritual, its stillness. But behind the fans and silks, beauty often came at a cost. These women weren't just ornaments. They were quiet symbols of strength. They endured discomfort, discipline, and sacrifice, not for vanity, but for survival and social expectation. Their stories often slip through the pages of history, told instead through worn bodies, hushed rituals, and lives lived under quiet expectation. So next time you see an ukiyo-e print, or a powdered face framed by lacquered pins, ask yourself, how much of that grace was pain held in place? Because the most painful beauty traditions were the ones we weren't meant to see. If this episode gave you a new perspective, Let us know in the comments. And if you're drawn to the forgotten corners of Japan's history, subscribe to Japan Rewind. We release new videos each week. There's much more still hidden, waiting to be remembered.